What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old comrade humor, man.
Good old comrade and brotherly humor, man.
Yeah.
Not to
that's
alienate
right.
all the sisters out there.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
That's
not
right.
to alienate the sisters and the brothers.
Comrade is not
Gender
it's not
neutral.
sexist. It's gender neutral, right? Comrade.
I don't know. Like, have you ever heard a woman say comrade?
I mean, when I lived in communist Russia,
Communist Russia,
the Soviet
yeah.
Union,
the good old Soviet days.
the good old Soviet days. No, I don't know. That's why I don't know. It's never been used in our context.
Yeah, that's why. Like, I mean, the first topic there was a surprising amount of mentions of brothers and comrades, which we will get into. But we welcome all brothers, sisters, and people who don't identify as a brother or sister on our podcast listenership.
That's right.
That's
But
right,
yeah, it's been a while, huh? How's it? How's the week, man?
Yeah, it's flying, man. It's flying. It's flying. It's like I still remember at the start of the year, when the weather was cool. Felt like there was New Year's and Chinese New Year in February, and January was still like, things are slowing. Now is like we are all making up for time that was spent more chill back then, lah.
Yeah, heat and rain, man. That's
Heat, rain,
basically
and
the
then
thing.
even like the work, the companies, everything's speeding up, lah.
Yeah, accelerating.
Accelerating.
Almost, yeah, in May already. And yeah, May Day, man. May Day just passed as well, man.
May Day, which is actually the first topic we'll be talking about. But before that, anything you want to say, Terrence?
I think, as always, if you're, first time listening to this podcast, or if you've listened to this podcast before, but you haven't taken a step of going onto Spotify or wherever your podcast provider is and leaving us a rating or a review, please do so, as that really helps us get discovered by other people who, need to jump on the Yalabat bandwagon.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Sweet. Okay, so
yes.
The first topic is I guess it's just a recap of the May Day rally by PM in what's the word? PM in what?
In waiting.
PM in waiting. Is that an actual term? PM in waiting? Yeah. PM in waiting, Lawrence Wong.
I mean, in waiting is a term like it's just the next one, like the king or queen in waiting or whatever.
So technically, right? If you go to the doctor, you're the patient in waiting, lah.
Yeah,
you're
you could say that.
The hawker center, you're the diner in waiting when you're queuing up.
Yeah. In some ways, yes.
I see. So it's not an official term per se, lah. It's just a term that can be used in a myriad of situations.
Yeah, it's not an official term like leader of the opposition or anything, lah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Otherwise, in government, everyone is waiting for something, right?
Yeah.
If you're a minister of state, you're probably minister in waiting.
Yeah, you're always something in waiting.
Life is just about waiting. Life is just about waiting. But Lawrence Wong did give a speech at the May Day rally, and it was the first time he gave the keynote address. In 2022, he gave it alongside PM Lee, but this time it was his floor, and he gave a speech talking about, the current state of Singapore, the economic outlook, and things that, to bring up the spirits of our comrades and brothers of Singapore.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a very clear signal, right? That this is he's the head honcho from here on out, He's the one delivering the speech and everything.
Yeah. So I mean, the full speech is online. It's about 40 plus minutes. And I mean, I guess there is something about NTUC that has that comrade feel. Because literally he starts off by saying, PM Lee, President Secretary General of NTUC. Oh, there's a sister Mary Liu. There's a sister Mary Liu and brother Ng Chee Meng. President of SNEF, Dr. Yap. Brothers and sisters. Oh, okay lah. So he did say sisters in the intro, but during the speech itself, there was a lot of brother Chee Meng, and okay lah, sisters here and there. But yeah, there's a lot of brothers and sisters and comrades lah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess that's the classic playbook, right? From speaking to unions and stuff.
Maybe we should start saying that on our podcast also. Brother Terence. I feel we've made this joke before, no? Brother
Really?
Terence, what are your thoughts?
We probably have, yeah, bro. It sounds like the kind of joke that you would make, yeah.
I take that as a neutral comment. Not an insult.
It is, yeah. Not an insult, yeah.
Because if Dave Chappelle makes a good joke, you would say, I can see Dave Chappelle making a joke like that, lah.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yeah. So, I can see yourself comparing yourself to Dave Chappelle, yes.
I mean, just the first name that came to mind when it comes to comedians. But yeah, so generally, I mean, okay, at a high level summary, basically what he covered was that, starting off that the worst of COVID is over. We pulled through, but the outlook is grim, lah. Because he did say the word grim, with regards to the Ukraine war, the geopolitics, the US-China relations worsening, the global trade, the competition amongst countries to attract foreign talent and investments to their own country. Then talking about how Singapore must be ready to adapt. Certain things about how we are not going to be able to outcompete other countries in terms of using money to attract companies. For example, how much you want to invest in this company's factory in your country. The things that the government and NTUC is doing to help keep jobs sustainable, help upskill workers. And then he also talked about the certain concerns like the rising housing prices. He talked about the BTO prices in tandem with salary. And then he ended off by saying, the relationship between NTUC and PAP must continue to be strengthened. And how they have worked together to help uplift Singaporeans in general. He talked about the handouts that will be coming for all Singaporeans this year. And he ended that way. And let me read his final line. Come what may, we will always be there with you, for you. We will always have your back. Solidarity forever and happy May Day, everyone.
Was that come what may? Was that do you think that was a deliberate pun?
From a song?
No, from May Day. I mean, it's a May Day speech, right?
Oh, fuck. That's true, huh? I did not pick up on that.
Sounds like the kind of joke that Lawrence Wong would make. But
isn't there a song that says that has come what may in it?
Yeah. It's that. I mean, who sang it? From Moulin Rouge, right?
The musical.
Yeah. That's right.
Moulin Rouge. Yeah,
come what may, but actually, Before I know. Thank you for that very that summary of a very, very long speech. But generally, what's your understanding of the purpose of the May Day rally?
Okay. So I think because May Day is Labor Day, right? I can't remember the origins of Labor Day, but it has to do with a day to highlight. I wouldn't say highlight. I mean, a bit of highlighting, a bit of celebrating, like the labor force, lah. And NTUC feels like it is. I mean, it's the biggest union in Singapore, and they are the representatives of the labor force. So the May Day rally is just to fucking get everyone excited about the future and work and allay any concerns, lah. Apart from that, I don't know. Do you know any other fun facts?
I mean, the speech is a rallying cry, right? To bring all the labor movement together alongside, align the labor movement alongside what the government is doing as well. I think the whole tripartite system in Singapore is quite unique in that sense. It's a very, very close working relationship between governments, unions, and employers. But yeah, I'd be interested. Actually, I don't know this, but I'd be interested to find out what the demographics of the people who were present in the audience were.
There were about 1,400 people, right?
Yeah. It's a big crowd, and that's why it's like a big rally, right? But how many of it was employers versus unionists and then all that, But that aside, I think the focus, a lot of the focus of it was on Lawrence Wong's speech and what that spells for the rest of the world, and in particular that part about BTO prices,
Yeah, you see
that snippet. Yeah, that snippet really got picked on by all the news agencies and all when they put the snippets up on YouTube.
Yeah. So I mean, just to close off what I mentioned just now about the origins of Labor Day, right? So basically, Labor Day, it is an annual holiday to celebrate the achievements of workers. It has its origins in the labor union movement, and specifically the 8-hour day movement, which came about in the 90s. Yeah, so okay, it's meant
just
to
not in
celebrate
Singapore, it's not Singapore.
No, in general.
In general, right?
Yeah. But basically, not all countries have it on 1st of May, but it's a lot of public holidays. A lot of them have public holidays, and it is to celebrate the achievement of workers, lah. But yes, going back to, I mean, so as you listened to it and read it, any thoughts that came to mind or not? Were you rallied up or not, brother Terence? Were you rallied up?
No, I wasn't part of that brotherhood, that red polo shirt wearing brotherhood. But I think it's just a pretty interesting time to be giving this speech, because there is a lot of there's been a lot of debate about housing prices, about the cost of living, about the sustainability of rent in Singapore, even forcing out in recent weeks, even international news agencies like Al Jazeera and all have written articles about Singapore expats being forced out because of high rents in our country. So it's not. I don't think it's just Singaporeans who need to listen to this and sort of get a better sense of how the government is thinking about all these things, but yeah, I think internationally there is a lot of attention about what the perception is of rising costs and rents in Singapore and the business environment in Singapore, right? Because if Singapore is not if there's a lot of people leaving especially mid-level expatriates, leaving the country because of rents, because of the cost of living, it's hard to promise a lot of investment from overseas and all that in this May Day rally speech, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in the sense when I listen to this speech, a little bit like worrying, because it does seem like, especially when it comes to talking about the BTO prices and all that, it just feels like an over optimistic view about household incomes versus the cost of BTO flats and things like that, in terms of the math that he used as well. We can go a bit into that, but how about you? What do you feel when you listen to the contents of this speech?
I mean, I did, okay, if you listen to him, he is a good orator, right? You listen to him, he doesn't come off like a douche, and in some way that call to action of we will never be able to compete on the money level with the big boys like Germany investing 10 billion with Intel, which apparently is double what the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Singapore will invest in our entire economy, and just saying that the only way we'll stay ahead is innovation, the gumption, the ingenuity. I mean, in some way, I think that is a good call to action, and I did feel a bit like okay, feels like it's tough times, but we will pull through. But apart from that, it was just a reminder of the reality of things, lah. I think it's something that over the course of this year, I think a lot of people are feeling the heat, and a lot of it is anchored in the thing that has been the hot topic, including for this, the housing prices. So I don't know, reading it, I was like, oh fuck. The next few months, of course, it's an exciting time. Technology is booming, is buzzing. AI this, AI that. COVID is past us. But yeah, it felt a little like by the end of reading it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be tricky, man. It's gonna be tricky. So that's what I left off with. And of course, the housing thing. I know I read it. Then I was like, it sounds good when he says it. But then after you think about the math, which we can get into. It felt like, oh shit, even that feels like a bit too nonchalant,
Yeah. To that point about the foreign investment, and that every country, especially like European or more developed economies, They used to outsource every fucking thing, right? They used to outsource things to lower cost centers. Now trying to bring back manufacturing and all these things back to the economies. I think, in the larger scheme, that makes sense, right? Because in the last few years, with COVID and the supply chain crunch, I think developed economies have realized that, hey, there is a strategic importance to keep some of these manufacturing industries in your own country. So like, Intel, he spoke about the example of Intel in Germany. So yeah, I did a bit of reading up about that. I think it's not a done deal, but it's still negotiations. But it's been announced that there's this place in East Germany that Intel is looking at building one of the biggest factories, the sites for the semiconductors, right? And the main sticking point in choosing a place is about public subsidies. So fact check complete. Lawrence Wong he's not exaggerating or anything. It is true that companies are looking at what kind of subsidies they can get in order to set up the factories around. So that's a real issue. But yeah, and that's the thing that stood out to me a bit, that if you look at the recent news articles, even my own interactions with expats, professionals who are living in Singapore now, right? The cost of living is a real issue, rent is a real issue, and things like that. So, and those are the reasons that they don't want to stay in Singapore. Everything else they love in Singapore. They love the weather, they love the food, they love the convenience, they love the safety, the education, and everything. But the cost of living really is like a big thing for them to want to move out of Singapore. And this is corroborated by the stuff like I said, was reported in Al Jazeera and other news outlets, right? So I don't think I heard a lot about those kind of things in terms of trying to keep foreign investment alive here, right? And that's what makes me worried. That they don't think that there's an issue or there's not a priority to address or what, and then at the end of the day, the BTO price issue, it does affect rental issues in Singapore, right? The cost of rent as well. So the fact that the BTO issue was brought up, but it was again, brought up with the mathematics that seems to say, hey, it's not really a problem. That kind of worries me a little bit, that there's a lot more so-called PR going on about the housing price issue or the rental, the rise in rents issue, rather than really like trying to tackle the issue head on.
Yeah, and the rising cost of living, but even for companies, right? Because there is now the new initiative that corporate tax rates around the world must be a minimum of 15%. While previously, I believe for Singapore, there were ways companies can get concessionary tax rates of 5 to 10% for the first 3 or 5 years if they qualify for certain things. So I know, even speaking anecdotally to other friends who are based abroad but incorporate their companies in Singapore, Singapore's corporate tax rate has been quite attractive. But if the minimum across, I think 136 countries is now going to be 15%, then we lose that competitive edge there. And then like what you said, like the rising cost, it does impact. And sometimes I think, but rising costs, okay lah, like a few people, you leave lah. But then I think, if there's a exodus of talented people, that's never good lah, right? That's never good for, and I think it's hard to kind of understand it, because it feels like, okay, there are always talented people around. But I think that's one of the things that maybe when you are at a bird's eye view, you have an overview of economies and a lot of data to back it up. If there's a brain drain, things will suffer. So then when he says the call to action, for Singapore to be ingenious and all that, that's a great call to action, but it's also, that's a tough thing lah. The one thing he said that's tangible is that they're investing in infrastructure. So Changi Airport Terminal 5, the Tuas Port, so that we still have that competitive edge lah, that unique advantage. So just as a layperson, that feels like, okay, that makes sense. Whereas ingenuity and gumption is so intangible, right? And if people are feeling squeezed already, then got space for ingenuity, man.
Yeah. And that comes with confidence as well, right? That, I think he brought examples of mid-career switches for professionals, right?
Yeah.
And how, some people after 20 years in the workforce, they went back and took a diploma, and then they came back and they got a promotion within their own company. I mean, that comes with the confidence, thinking that, upskilling or getting educated, getting more education will actually help your career and all that, right? So I think that's the crucial part that really needs to be addressed now, right? The confidence in the economy, confidence in the next steps for Singapore as well. But so I mean, since we jumped around a bit, like what about the BTO pricing example? What about that stood out to you?
I mean, at first, when basically he said that he has said many times before, his cabinet has said before that the BTO prices remain affordable, right? And he said, okay, he will reiterate one more time, and then he goes into a bit of math where he was saying, okay, so let me see. One specific concern that people have is housing, main problem. This year alone, we are completing 20,000 flats. Some still worry about affordability of HDB, where he quoted one meeting with a union leader who told him that in the 80s, a 4-room flat was only 40,000, but now BTO prices are more expensive. If this trend continues, how will my children afford their homes in the future? I think that's something that even people who are starting their life as a family and all are facing right now, and so he pleaded with us to not just look at the headline price of the BTO, consider how the price relates to income. The sticking point came up was when he said, okay, in the 80s, the price of a 4-room BTO flat in a new town indeed was around 40,000. And the median household income was around 900. And a typical household would use about a quarter of their income to service the loan. And then he compared it with the situation today. 4-room flat in a non-mature estate, so a new town like Bukit Batok, recently launched. It's about 350,000. So prices have risen almost 10 times. But the median household income, according to him, has also risen 10 times, from 900 to 9,000. So by that logic, BTO prices have in fact moved in tandem with incomes. And this does not even take into account the grants that go up to like $80,000 for first-timers. So, and that, typical household now continues to use less than 25% of their income. Many people use CPF, so there's no out-of-pocket. And he concludes so brothers and sisters, affordable and accessible public housing, like access to first-rate education and healthcare, will always be a key part of our social compact in Singapore. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, the math kind of makes sense. But then, thankful to like Reddit and other forums, people start going down into the math. But when you heard that, was it already like, hey, that doesn't make sense?
No. I think the TLDR version is that housing prices have gone up 10 times, but median household income has also come up 10 times.
Yeah,
right.
Correct.
That's the crux of his argument, right?
Yeah.
But I think the one part about it that stood out to me was that I think household income as it was measured before is very different from how household income is measured today, and namely because last time I think, of course I don't have the stats from me, but I'm pretty sure that last time median household income was primarily there was a single breadwinner within the family, usually within a household. And now more often than not, it's usually dual income households, right?
Yeah.
So it's both, assuming nuclear family, both mother and father working to provide for their household income, And so is it, I think rather than think about household income, if we look at the just median, per capita income, that statistic's probably quite different, right?
Yeah. And the moment I someone pointed that out online, I was like, hey, actually that's true. Again, I don't have the data, but I mean, anecdotally, my mom, a lot of my family relatives of that generation, it was a sole breadwinner, which then means that your kids can be taken care of by the other parent. Maybe you don't need to get a helper, and it all impacts a lot lah. And then if you think about it, if median household income 9,000, let's say there are more dual income households, means each person on average earns about 4.5k lah, which sounds, I think, about what I've heard is the median income in Singapore per capita lah. And then median is also the 50th percentile, right?
Yeah, correct.
So it's not the average.
It's not the average, but I mean, I think it's a better measure of where things are at than the average.
Average would be shit lah.
Yeah, with James Dyson moving here and all, the average is very skewed lah. Yeah, with all the billionaires buying GCBs, the average is very skewed. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about it that way, then you're like, and that was just one of the things that people pointed out. There's also the other thing about how the public flats used to be bigger. Again, no correct. Stats, but anecdotally, I think in general, most people would agree that a 3-room flat for a new BTO project now is a lot smaller than what it used to be.
Yeah. Correct.
And then also the possibility that people are settling down later and moving out of their parents' places later, which means they are further down in their careers, which means that also brings up the median income lah.
Household income, the median household income.
Median household income.
Yeah.
And then also with BTOs and the time taken. I mean, on that note, when he was saying, like the BTO projects are being rushed, I mean, that one is fucking clear, like the amount of development that's going around, right? And just a shout out to anyone working in construction who is out there right now working their asses off in the heat.
Doubling down.
Holy shit, man. Like every time I come out and I'm just like sweaty in my kitchen and all, then I look out the window and I see these people with helmets, vests, and just fucking going at it. And I'm like, oh my God, these people are heroes, man. So, So
shout out to them for Labor Day.
Shout out to them for Labor Day, man. Shout out to them for Labor Day. So, I mean, if there's a way you can be nice to them, like just be polite, get them a drink. I don't know, man. Just like fucking, it's crazy, man. And they're working at night.
Or buy them a what do you call it? A flying fox ride on Sentosa, right? Because that's what we did before on Labor Day. Get to explain the context or not. No, I mean, shout out to, not shout out. I mean, if people know us from our history as YouTubers, there was one year for Labor Day, we interviewed some, foreign laborers who, were working in Singapore and missing their families. And we took them out to do something special in Sentosa. And that was a pretty cool video that I think we like to revisit every now and then, right? Especially around May Day.
Yeah. And I mean, we did have a good conversation at the start of the video, Terrence. We didn't just like, hey, come, let's go to Sentosa, have a flying fox ride. Hey, your life is a lot better, right? No.
All I can say is watch the video, to understand the context.
Okay, we can put the link in the show notes. I think that's one of our most popular videos also.
We should,
Yeah. But so then when you look at it, then you're like, oh, wait. I mean, of course, on Reddit, some people were like, oh, this is a brilliant slay of hand and like, this is the sneakiness and all. But I think it's one of those things that when you look at a number, it sounds about right. But when you dig deeper, and that's why when looking at that and even thinking about it on my own, it's not just some speculative like conspiracy theory. Then I think about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, we're in a tricky time. We're in a tricky time. Yeah. And now one question I started to ask people of like different generations, right, is like, if you could be born in any decade, what decade would you choose? Because of course, like for younger people, they wouldn't have lived in older decades. But I've been quite surprised by some of the answers, like the generation above us or our parents and all. Most of them tend to be like, okay, I like being born in the 70s, the 80s, 90s were great. Some younger people who were born maybe in the 2000s or 90s would also want to be born in the 70s or 80s. Because you hear so many things about the golden years of 90s where, the world generally was happy, there was more order. I don't know, man. But
I mean, that's also with the hindsight, right?
Yeah, exactly, the hindsight.
So it's a bit different because it's that kind of like, I wish I invested in Apple stock in the 80s or 90s, even $1, I'd be a millionaire or billionaire and all that, right?
And I think
so it's one of those things where, when you're growing up that time, you wouldn't know, you'd also be worried about things like getting wiped out by a nuclear war and things like that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, as you grow up, life gets more complicated. So I think everyone reminisces about the time when they are younger, where life was simpler. But I don't know. Maybe kids these days, even the people who are born in the 2010s or 2000s, they also are like, you know what, 70s, 80s sounds good. I don't know. I'm just gonna start
The
asking
music
people
was
that
great.
question
The
more.
music was great. You can't deny the music was very interesting and experimental from that period.
But Terrence, now the music got like fuck, I don't even know
K-pop,
what's the latest. Yeah, K-pop. Now got K-pop, no. Blackpink, BTS, G-Dragon.
Surprise! It's just the same music but in different language or so.
Oh, Terrence, the K-pop army is gonna shit on you, man. Just for that one comment. Good luck, Terrence.
Yeah. But no, it's true lah. There are a lot of things from the 70s and 80s that even for us lah, right? I mean, born in the 80s and all, we definitely look back with a lot of nostalgia. But yeah, would you want to return to that entirely? I'm not sure lah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether people born in the 2000s and 2010s, they're like, wow, we only could be born in the 90s, you know, that kind. So every generation is just looking back like one generation prior lah.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just, I guess reading that speech is just a reminder that okay, feels like the year is not gonna. There's gonna be some tough times ahead before we. I don't know. Or is this a new world? There will never be a time when the whole world is like progressing together.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I think every generation has its challenges.
Yeah.
And it'd be quite interesting to see. This leadership transition and everything going on, they're dealing with very complex, like geopolitical issues, right? That aren't so black and white as before already, right? Where you're talking about Cold War and capitalism versus communism and things like that.
Yeah,
it's much more complex than that. Yeah,
and I mean, he did point out certain things which are true, you know, like you're saying, the inequality we see in other countries must never reach like breaking point, like you know, the protests in France. And the civil wars in other countries, the Russia-Ukraine war. So I think we are what's the word? The precipice, is it? Precipice.
Precipice, yes. That's right.
Precipice of like some potential shit going down, so we just gotta be wary, to be wary.
But then again, I would say that you could say that of almost any point of time in history or so, right? You know, there are all these declarations that the end of the Cold War is the end of is the time of global peace,
right?
The end of history and everything, lah. Then after that, there was like 9/11, and terrorism was the next big thing, and then pandemic came around and said, "Hold my beer," and all these kind of things, you know. So every generation has its challenges. All I would say is this generation is it's very complex, because they're dealing with a lot of information and much more globalized competition and workforce and all these things that aren't as easy to solve already.
And you just have more access to info. Now something happens in Congo or Colombia, you can read about it in detail. Last time, where's Last time, keeping track of local news was damn hard.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
But yeah, I mean these are the real bread and butter issues that affect everyone, right?
Yeah.
But even our next topic it's a lot closer to home, but it also has the same themes about bread and butter issues and sort of exclusivity or maybe some exclusion involved in keeping one group of people out from one place in Singapore that is a bit more exclusive. And what is this big topic about?
It is the discovery or announcement that for a certain condo called Whampoa East Condo, 8 River Suites, it's at Whampoa East. They have effectively imposed a ban where food delivery riders can no longer enter or park within the compounds. And apparently, from an organization that represents riders and all that, they're saying that bans and restrictions on delivery vehicles are getting more commonplace, which means that riders now have to park outside and walk in and walk back out. In the face, amidst condo managers just being unhappy at certain riders parking at places where they shouldn't park and not listening to instructions.
Yeah. correct.
Yeah.
But you know, the other fun fact is that this Whampoa East 8 River Suites is also, it's not the first time it's in like the news or international news.
Oh, is it?
I don't even remember a few years ago, I think in 2019, there was the condo resident who verbally abused the security guard because I think that the condo resident parked in an illegal spot at a drop-off point or something. And then I think he said something about I buy your fucking property for $1.5 million or something like that. And it was filmed and put online, and it became an international incident in the sense that even South China Morning Post talked about it and all that. So this is that same infamous condo where it happened. And now I thought it was quite funny that it's in the news again. But this time over, banning delivery riders. But it seems like a lot of issues about inequality and all that seem to be happening at this hotspot, this condo.
Yeah, that's right. What is going on in Whampoa East, man?
Yeah.
What is going on in Whampoa East?
I mean, I've driven by the place before. One thing I would say is that it's situated, the entrance to the condo and everything is situated right next to an area of quite heavy traffic, right? It's a quite tight turn, but with a lot of traffic passing through that is going towards the expressways, the major expressways, PIE, the access to CTE is just round the corner from there, right? So there's a lot of heavy traffic there, and I can understand why the issue of delivery riders blocking traffic or anything like that in the area can cause a lot of stress, right? Whether it's to the condo security or the management within the condo.
Yeah. And
so that's something probably you can only appreciate when you actually go to a condo and see, because it is different from like let's say a condo that's in a corner of a housing estate or something like that, where there's a bit less human and less vehicular traffic. Yeah. This one feels like a much more stressful environment.
Yeah, and like also the discussion of like condo management and where riders can park has been an ongoing thing actually. Like at first, I think there were a lot of complaints because it also looks like a big condo compound, right? And apparently there were near misses of accidents where the delivery riders were going against the flow of traffic just to get closer to a particular unit. And then they designated some parking spots for food delivery riders, which apparently some food delivery riders didn't follow. So that has all culminated in this ban. But when you were reading this, right, like what were you feeling, Brother Terence?
I guess it's for me it's just more a matter of the infrastructure. Is still trying to catch up with all the new trends in town, right? Because, for example, remember at one point, like, bike sharing was a big deal in Singapore, right? And then there were all those issues about people indiscriminately parking their bikes, even disposing of bikes in random places and like throwing them into rivers and reservoirs and all that, right? And it seems to be, and that caused a lot of anger amongst the general public. But there seems to be a bit more acceptance and awareness that, okay, these bike sharing services are here to stay. And now you go around bus stops and all, you'll see a lot more like yellow boxes and stuff like that where people are told to park their bikes and all that, right? So the infrastructure has kind of caught up with how the changing human behaviors have happened. But for food delivery, I guess it's a case where, at first it was a lot of people doing on PMDs, right? Electronic PMDs. But now PMDs in recent years have been banned. So now it's all e-bikes or motorcycles and all. And those take up a lot more space and they need more parking space, which I think a lot of condos haven't caught up with. That's why there's this divide.
And this is also one of those things, because I know just from visiting friends or family who live in condo, certain condo security can be very, very tight, very anal. Some are like you just walk in with confidence, you can enter. So So the thing about this, like what you say, that's certain things have caught up with this trend that is now here to stay. It's part of our society, part of the workforce. But in this case, it feels like like a few bad players kind of make life difficult for all of them. So I can see where the condo management is coming from, can see where the riders are coming from. And that's why I don't know whether Grab or these food delivery apps should also be involved in some way. And I see that because, I mean, ultimately for the riders, I can imagine it sucks, especially in this kind of heat. And especially for a role where you want to deliver more so that you can earn more, right? But you have to get off, walk fucking a few hundred meters, go up, come back. It really takes time. But then the condo also, there's what if the residents are complaining, if it is an inconvenience, it is a real problem. So whether or not the platforms themselves, let's say for certain condos, there's a higher fee. Just, I don't know. And how that
higher fee? What do you mean? Oh, you mean for delivery?
Yeah.
The
people living there, they're like, hey, why the fee so high? Then the platform will say, but it's your condo management that mandated this because your fellow residents complain.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know whether it's on, because we had this similar discussion when the PMD ban was going, right? It's like these platforms, they enable all these jobs, which is great, but can they just wash their hands clean of all the issues that arise after that?
Correct. Very true.
So I don't know, it's tricky, man. It's tricky. This is like a true Yalabat topic, much more than the first.
Yeah. Because as much as some residents might be complaining about safety or the indiscriminate parking of these food delivery riders, right? At the same time, if they end up having to park very far away and having to walk very far to your condo, by the time the food gets to you, it's probably cold or it's melted in the heat. You definitely can't order ice cream, right? So anyone at 8 River Suites, don't order ice cream because you know that there's those issues. You'll get your ice cream will be melted by the time it arrives. So that also is a detriment to their own lifestyle, right? You want your food to come as quickly and as freshly as possible. So it's a balance. But what I would also say is that I guess there are residents who will be very, very particular about state of cleanliness or the orderliness within their condos, and they can also be the most vocal complainers, right?
Yeah,
and a lot of times it's usually the most vocal ones who end up getting their way, right? The ones who complain was the most like what you say, anal ones. So maybe people within the condo, if you really did a straw poll, like most of them actually wouldn't mind. But it's always that there one or two that always get push their agenda and their way through and get everything banned. And they probably don't even use food delivery That's my guess Yeah.
So that's why if the platform kind of puts it down that okay, your delivery fees are higher because some of your condo mates made a complaint. We can't do anything. Then you push the fight to them You're like, okay, now you all go sort it out. You all go sort it out. And then the condo management.
That's like the army that like, one of y'all did something wrong, so everybody go and knock it down and do push up You'll go and find out and tell me come and admit to me who is the one who did the wrong thing.
And that works fucking well.
Yeah, the guy. Come on, come forward. Just say it's okay.
Yeah, that's when everyone is in push-up position, right? Then the instructor saying, never mind, nobody want to admit, right? Yeah. Nobody want to admit. I remember in school when one time my class, we were playing with the football in the class, someone kicked the ball out and then it almost hit a car downstairs. Then the discipline master came to our class, he made us all stand and said, who kicked the ball? And no one admitted. He was like, okay, Ken, we will all stand here and wait for the ball to move itself. Exactly.
The good old days of corporal punishment in schools.
Yeah, exactly. The true test of comradeship and brotherhood. One person fucks up, everyone suffer.
Yeah. So kids, if you want to grow up in the 70s and 80s, those are the kinds of things that you have to deal with. Like physical punishments with your friends in school.
Emotional blackmail, guilt tripping. But that's what makes society what it is. And that's why maybe the the people who build these platforms or enforce certain things need to adopt that sort of mentality. One condo resident or one resident makes noise, fine. Everybody suffer. And then see what
everybody
happens.
suffers.
Yeah, everybody suffers. In army, I think before our generation, maybe some generation, there was, what's the term? Blanket. Blanket, is it? Blanket party.
Oh, yeah. Where they cover you with a blanket and then they
just whack
you, right?
Yeah. So
did that actually ever happen to anyone that you know in army, like personally? Not anecdotally.
Not personally.
Not personally. Yeah. I think my time, I never heard of it in my time already, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can imagine it happening, lah. But for those uninformed, basically when the platoon or someone wants to target one person, the stories we used to hear is that at night they will all gang up, put a blanket over that person, and everyone just kicks the shit out of him because it's like anonymous beating, lah. Yeah. Now you hide behind a face to put shitty comments. Last time you hide behind a blanket to punch someone in the face.
Yeah. And then there was that thing about, because they used to issue soap bars, right?
Yeah, to soldiers. Yeah, correct.
So the story is that soldiers would use those soap bars and put them in their socks and use those as like as weapons to whack person. There's a lot more torque and momentum when you swing a sock loaded with a soap bar like that.
Yeah, correct. So
the good old days.
These are the takeaways that we came out of army with, like guilt tripping, like making everyone suffer for the fuck ups of one person. Oh, lifelong lessons. Like
what you said, generations seem to want to return to, right?
Yeah, people. But then now cannot. Everyone use liquid soap. Then how? Right. So liquid already soap. That one cannot. You put liquid soap in a sock, what the hell will happen? It'll just be a foam party.
No. But with this, the whole, like recycling culture and everything coming back, a lot of households are changing back to soap bars. Yeah. In fact, I've also moved back to soap bars already.
Yeah.
So I can, if you want to blanket party, we can do it. I have soap.
You have to check first, like, hey, got soba. You don't, hey, fuck lah, bro. Let's talk about sustainability,
Bro, you fucking woke. Yeah, you're not woke enough, you don't eat soap bars.
Yeah, you want to beat this guy up, but please, can you think about Mother Earth or not? Huh? You're still using liquid soap. Here are 10 reasons why you should move to bar soap.
Yeah. So it's quite actually, just off tangent, it's quite interesting discussion because I think I was reading somewhere on some Reddit thread recently about what the toilets are like in BMT, So what I understand now, the thing that blew my mind is that there are heaters now in the BMT toilets. Water heaters. Yeah. So no more, like last time it was just like, you just shower in whatever cold water, right? Now there are heaters where you switch them on, you leave them on for a while, then you get hot water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then now I can sound
needs
like
to be corroborated. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but needs to, it sounds logical, right?
Yeah. No, now I got one cousin-in-law who's in army, and every time I hear the stories, I'm like, during my time, like blah blah. I become uncle already.
Yeah.
I become full uncle. Yeah, full uncle.
Full uncle. But yeah, it's a tricky issue, lah. This right, the delivery rider versus condos.
Yeah, tricky issue.
That's right.
Especially now with this heat, I tell you, wow, the sympathy for anyone in like in delivery and stuff like that, or just working outdoors. Wow, crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah.
So much more.
Yeah. But so I think it's a good time to talk about something positive, which is what is your one shook thing of this last week, right?
The one shook comment.
Oh, sorry, one shook comment.
One shook comment. I mean, the one shook comment was something on the saga, the Brooklyn saga, which we did. Let me just pull up the comment. Oh my god. Okay, so it was Yalabat 392. And basically there was someone, Internet Lurker 96, again long time commenter, who was saying that, as we were talking about plagiarism by a human, it would be interesting to talk about plagiarism from the perspective of using AI, ChatGPT, whether it's considered plagiarism. I mean, it's an interesting thought, but But like what I think you responded, that even the Brooklyn saga was such a rabbit hole, right? That it took up so much time. But this AI thing is going to continue to be debated. Like I think the latest thing in the news is that one of the fathers of AI recently left Google because he himself is a bit worried about the negative consequences, lah. So so maybe last time we were trialing, that podcast NFT with Bubble Tea when NFT was the rage. Maybe now we should do AI with something.
AI, yeah. AI with...
we just use ChatGPT to do a full podcast. Like every podcast is just scripted by ChatGPT.
Not just scripted. We'll use AI to recreate our voices for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my one shook comment. What about you?
My one shook comment was not something on our social media, but I think on the Reddit, the Ask Singapore Reddit subreddit, there was a question: which Singaporean YouTube channel do you enjoy watching most and why? So yeah, I first got wind of this because one of our listeners actually tagged Yalabat, just tagged our subreddit Yalabat. So yeah, thanks for doing that. I think it's I can't remember who. I think it was it's one of our longtime listeners, but I cannot recall, or at least I try to see where it is now. I can't find
they put it on
particular comment.
They put it on our Reddit.
No. It's on the Ask Singapore subreddit lah.
Oh, Ask Singapore, yes.
But it's not anything. It's But Then Ho. But Then Ho.
But Then Ho
just tagged us. So I think it's nice to be mentioned in the same breath as other YouTube channels and all. Although the truth is we don't really post that much on YouTube anymore, right?
Yeah.
But also interesting thread because a lot of people actually love CNA documentaries. That's one thing I've realized from reading this. CNA does a lot of documentaries now, and they just put them out on YouTube, and it seems like a lot of people are watching CNA documentaries and loving them.
Yeah. I mean, recently also MediaCorp, there were a lot of articles saying they won a bunch of awards at festivals. If you read, CNA wins a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
CNA does some good shit, man.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Interesting.
All right. What is your one shock thing, man?
My one shock thing is just a clip from a podcast called the podcast called Flagrant. I think it's run by the couple of comedians who talk about sports and comedy. Andrew Schultz and what's the other guy's name? I can't remember. Andrew Schultz and Akash Singh. And Mark Gannon, I think. But they had a recent clip where they got Casey Neistat on the podcast. And basically, Casey Neistat talked about, he was very forthcoming about, if you remember, Casey Neistat once had a startup called Beam.
Yeah.
They eventually, on paper, got sold to CNN for 25 million USD.
Yeah.
And because the NDA, or at least the non-disclosure agreement that Casey Neistat had to not talk about the deal and everything, recently ended. So he was very candid about a lot of the ongoings behind that $25 million acquisition on the podcast. So I think interesting for anyone reading it to try to understand like how what happened when this big media organization swallowed an independent creator, one of the top independent creators like Casey Neistat, and what happened there. So it's a interesting little clip for those people interested. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Gonna listen to that.
So the title is
always what?
The title is How Casey Neistat Swindled CNN for $25 million.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
I think we've always wondered, right, what happened.
Yeah.
But cool. Okay, so my one shock thing is somehow I chanced upon this one short clip by BBC, which was uploaded 6 years ago. It's titled Lemurs Get High. So it's part of their Spy in the Wild series. I think they set up a bunch of cameras. But this clip is about 2.5 minutes. It basically explains how lemurs, they actually use millipedes as insecticide. In the sense that what they do is they pick up these millipedes, they bite off part of the millipedes, and certain enzymes or toxins in the millipede make them salivate. So together with their saliva and the toxins from the half-eaten millipede, they rub all that around their body as an insecticide to deter pests. But the twist is, because it's toxins, they, in the process of doing that, they get high.
Oh,
so okay. That's why the video is called Lemurs Get High, because you can see them, they bite, they're shaking. By the end, right, their like eyes are glazed over and they're just reaching for one more millipede to do it all over again. And the music they use is fucking dope, man. I love it.
Wow. Will that work for humans as well? Will that work for humans?
I don't know, because I think animals do have different tolerances for toxins. Maybe
that's true.
In some way, when a toxin is paralyzes you, in some way, if you take maybe a smaller dose, it can give you some sort of high or something. So I tell you, the lemurs is such a funny video, man. But I mean, smart of them also, because they really use it as insecticide. So I'm not saying if you are in the jungle anywhere, you pick up a millipede, bite it, and rub it over yourself, you get protection and you get a good time. No, definitely not. But yeah, it was just interesting.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool.
All right.
Another one in the can.
Another one in the can. Our 400th Yalabot episode is coming out soon also, in about 2.5 weeks like that.
Yeah.
So,
if we should,
we'll see.
Yeah, let us know if we should do something special for it, like AMA or whatever. Although I feel like we've done AMA recently already. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Cool, man. All right. Cool. Thanks for listening, everybody.